Well, why don't we get
There we
started
go.
and then people will join us as they do. And yeah, today's
Absolutely.
conversation is going to be fun. And maybe I'll let you just introduce yourself and then I'll introduce myself and then we'll go from there.
Absolutely. So, my name is Chantel, and my Substack is Chantel Yvonne. It's also Always Be Reading. Yeah, joined Substack in January. I think I really started focusing on it in January. I think I may have started it in December, and have found it to be a really lovely community. And within the community, I started reading The Artist's Way and wanted to come back to it. I tried it before, didn't finish it. And in conversation and sharing that I was doing it, that's how I was able to meet Heidi. So that's how we connected, and we were like, hey, let's do something. Let's meet each other. Let's support one another on this journey. And so that's been a joy. And in my Substack
Mhm.
space, I write about books, all things books. I love books. I especially am building back my relationship with fiction. Fiction was my first love. And I tell people that after I graduated college, I'm a literature major. It was in the DC area, which is very type A, and I was adulting, and I found myself reading like a lot more nonfiction books than fiction. And I just was especially drawn about 2 years ago to just start reconnecting with fiction. And I really do believe that stories expand us and help
Mm.
us to live examined lives. And it's a great way to get to know people and build community. So that's what I like to talk about on my Substack. And I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm so happy that you're here too. And I said this to you in the pre-room that I just love your background with all the books behind you. It's just so perfect. Um, it definitely
Thank you.
was such a joy to meet here. My name is Heidi Wall Giesbrecht, and I write Encouragement Along the Journey, which is a little bit like rambling around in my brain. I write whatever happens to inspire me. It turns out that there actually are some themes. So there's, themes around neurodiversity, relationship, grief, becoming, lots of different things. And then I've
Mm,
started kind of a little side piece, which is reflections on the sacred and the ordinary, which is a space just to kind of
mm,
write some of the more faith focused pieces that I want them to be very expansive and open for anyone to read, but I kind of felt like they weren't quite where I wanted to go with encouragement along the journey. So that one is very, as I feel like writing something, I write something there. Um, I've been on Substack since end of November, and like you, Chantel, I have found it to be just a community that I had not expected, and the
yeah.
connections I'm making with people are real. Like I posted the other day, does anyone else dream of like visiting their Substack friends? But I seriously do. I'm like, oh, such and such lives in this place. I'm
Yeah.
planning on going there. I should
Yes.
look them up. So we had the opportunity to meet just on a Zoom call. And honestly, that was like the highlight of my week, Chantel. It was so enjoyable just to
Oh,
connect and
thank
realize all our
you.
points of,
Me too.
yeah, connection. And I think it started with you posting that you were doing the artist's
Yeah.
way and saying, hey, who's going to join me? And I was like, oh, the artist's way. Like, I have that book. I think I started it once, no, twice. And so I actually went and like pulled it out and
Yeah.
put it on my bedside table and messaged you saying, hey, I've pulled it off my shelf. And you were like, okay, so tell me how far you get and what you're reading. And I'm like, oh gosh, now I've committed myself. But me being me, I'm always up for a challenge. So I was like,
I was so
okay.
excited. Yes.
So,
I
hey
was
everyone. Hi
I
Margaret.
was
Hi
so excited.
Christopher. Yeah. So today, I mean, we had decided like let's do a check-in on where we are with the Artist's Way. Do some, kind of talk about why we started it. So I've already shared mine. I'll let you share yours. And then, yeah, things we've been learning along the way.
So I was given um The Artist's Way by my big sister, Cherie Bellamy, who's also a Substacker and has a wonderful Substack out for things for me. So she's 12 years older than me, but we're like besties and very similar. And but she gave me The Artist's Way, and I was in a season where I was like, this looks really interesting, but I wasn't in a season where I could do it. But my enthusiasm for things trumps like sometimes what's practical or like me preparing myself. So I dove in and I'm like, I'm gonna do this. And I got to like I think week 2 or 3, and then that was it. But I knew that from the little bit that I did do, I knew like this is good. I want to keep it. I want to come back to it when my life is perfect. Perfect in the sense that when I can wake up in the morning, have my cup of tea made, you know what I'm saying? Like this tranquility, this perfect moment, and then I can like perfectly ease into this space. And that was years ago. That was maybe like 8 years ago, I think. And recently, I was in a conference, and the keynote speaker, before he started, we were hanging out and talking, and he mentioned The Artist's Way. And I did what you did. Oh, I have that. And I pulled it off my shelf. And I was like, maybe I should do it. But this time I was like, okay, I am going to do it. But I knew I needed to do it differently. I was like, my life is not where I could wake up to that perfect cup of coffee. So, and I also realized that moment, I can't wait for that moment to write or to do anything. I had to set that aside. But what I did know, Heidi, is that I needed to do it in community. I needed some accountability. I needed, some touch point. And so I think that, and I needed to like be a little bit more mentally prepared. So like, let me get my, it's not a lot that you need, but let me get my journal, which happened to be a legal pad, which every morning when I'm writing my morning pages, I'm like, why did I choose a long legal pad to do these morning pages? And so, yeah, so I put out to some folks at work, like, hey, I'm doing this. And I work remotely, and some people were like, we'll do it too. So there's a little group of us that just cheer each other along. And I did the same thing on Substack. And that's when you responded. And I was like, yes. And what's great is that even though I have my work group, because we don't have conversation, we just have more like, text check-in. And the conversation that we had was so, it was so rich. It was so validating and energizing. I left energized, like, yes, like keep going. And so, and I was really happy that I got over what I didn't realize I had until after, which is kind of how The Artist's Way is working for me. I had a fear of imitation, like me even saying, hey, I'm doing this is something that was very risky, for me to just be like, to throw it out there and to see. And I'm so glad that I did. And along with you, another thing that I received, I don't know how it's been for you, if you've let people know, or as you've let people know, I received so much encouragement from people who have done it, stories about how it has impacted them. It's been like such great energy coming my way with that. And so I've been really, really blessed by just the goodwill towards it, and towards me with this journey.
Yeah. That's awesome. I had to laugh at the waiting for the perfect moment, because I think we all have a tendency to, well, I'll do this when, rather than just saying, you know what, I'm going to jump in.
When.
Yeah. And it's interesting because when
That's
the
right.
very first time I started The Artist's Way, I don't even think I made it through chapter 1. Like I didn't get very far at all. And I didn't think I had gotten particularly far the second time, but apparently my bookmark tells me I got to page 86. So I guess I did get a little ways in.
Yeah, that's
right. So this time around, I was like, okay, what do I need to do differently? And so this week in particular has been a fascinating week for me in trying to figure out like what is working, what am I finding challenging. And I started like just sending myself some voice notes. And, um, some of the things that I realized was like sustainability for me is really paramount right now. When I take on something, I
Mm,
always have a tendency to jump in the deep end, and I'm not a good swimmer. And then I get panicked and I stop doing what I'm doing. And so it's like, okay, how do
yeah,
I do this? Like, if I am going to jump in the deep end, how do I have, like floaties or something to keep me afloat? Or how do I maybe not jump in the deep end, maybe jump in partway through? And so, really trying to think about how do I make this work for me so that I keep doing it? Because if it gets to the point where it feels like
yeah.
too much, I shut down. Um, and then it actually, yeah, I'll get back to the morning pages, but the other one for me was comfort. Like, and not comfort in the sense of I
Mm,
don't want any discomfort. I don't mind discomfort, but discomfort to me needs to serve a purpose. So if I am wearing
mm,
heels and the purpose is I get blisters, to me, that's not worth it. I would rather be wearing
right,
really funky flats than heels that are going to give me
right.
blisters. Because the purpose is for the shoes to look good. I can find shoes that look good in either variety. So just like thinking of that piece of, yeah, it has to fit me. And it has to feel comfortable so that I'm not constantly focused on the it. I can just focus on the doing.
Yeah,
Um, and
yeah,
so the morning
yeah.
pages have been a challenge for me, Chantal. First of all, I am not a morning person. I never have been. I have tried really hard, and I've recently come to the conclusion that I never will be, unless I maybe move to a different time
Mhm.
zone. Maybe then I could be a morning person. I don't know. But the morning pages has been interesting, and it kind of reminded me a couple of years ago. I did a gratitude practice, and it was something that I had decided
Mm,
to do for 365 days. I was going to get up every morning and write down three things that I was thankful for. Um,
right.
it was horrible. I was thankful for nothing in the morning. And so I very quickly realized that this was not going to work.
Right,
And so I
right.
shuffled it to the evening. And in the evening, I was thankful for so much. And so I would write my three things every
Yeah,
evening. And at the end of the year, I went back and I looked at all of them and I pulled out themes to kind of see what were the biggest things that really impacted me. And as I was doing the morning
oh,
pages, I
that's
got
great.
drawn back to that memory. And I thought, this feels like gratitude in the morning. I have
Yeah,
none. Um, and so I chatted with my husband about it this week, and I said, like, I've often felt like the the piece that doesn't fit, like in all sorts of different things. When people do things,
mhm,
I'm always like, I don't quite fit. And I was feeling that way with the morning pages. And I thought, okay, this is great. I actually want to talk about this because I put out a question and most people resonate with the morning pages, but there were a few who didn't. And I was like, okay, so maybe the morning pages work for most, but not all. And that's that piece of
yeah,
sustainability. Like you got to figure out what works for you. And so when I was talking to my husband, he's like, your brain is most cluttered in the evening. And I'm like, I know. And so I,
he's like, "It gets built up,
yeah,
babe. It gets built up through the day."
yeah. There are like occasional days where I get up in the morning and I have a very spacious morning and I can just kind of allow
Mhm,
things to flow. And then I can actually do morning pages kind of closer to noon. But when my day
mhm.
isn't like that, there aren't hours and hours of time, morning pages just do not happen. Like they cause stress and don't actually create any spaciousness. Whereas when I do evening pages, they create spaciousness. So me being me, I had to look up, does anyone do the artist's way morning pages as evening pages? And there was some really interesting information that I came up with. And so,
Yeah,
yeah, one of the thoughts was like for evening pages, asking some questions like what stayed with me today, what drained me, what
mhm,
energized me, what am I carrying
mhm.
into tomorrow, and what do I want to just leave here on the page? And I was like, oh, beautiful.
Mm,
Like for
that's
my
one
brain,
too.
that works. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's funny because the morning pages, was the big thing that I struggled with, when I tried to do it the first
Mm.
time because, as I shared with you, I'm a journaler, and my journals have colors. I have specific types of journals, colors for journals that serve different things. When I went to New York this past weekend, just for like a couple of days, my clothes could have fit in an overnight, but I had to bring the little suitcase between my journals and my books, like, you know.
I love it.
And so the morning pages was a problem because it's like just blah and then don't read it and tear it up. And I'm like, I don't have, because I also go back to my journals. I will read like, oh, when I was 12, it's such and such and such and such. Like, I go back to my journals. And so I really struggled because I couldn't find a place for this type of interaction with myself on paper in my ecosystem of journaling. And it really threw me because when I read it, one of the things I was drawn to was like, oh, it's journaling pages. That was a
Yeah.
plus for me. And it just became, I think, like to what you said, and I love how you said it, it became blistery high heel shoes. It was not comfortable.
Mm.
Um, it was whatever I was going to get out of it. I don't think I had access because I was so distracted by
Mhm.
the mess of it. It wasn't working for me. And so this time, I think like sustainability is something that I thought about too. And I like to release at night. So my morning journal is really kind of more, I have like, it's like on such and such, it could be like on the fact that there's no food for breakfast this morning, but it's a it's a very structured like thing that I'm focused on. And it's not like this interior monologue, like interior thoughts, like, whatever, just write whatever comes to your brain type deal. So what I had to do was I had to shift my more communing with myself journals to the evening. And and I do journal in the morning. So I kept that my morning space. It's a lot of
Mm.
journaling that goes on. My husband is like, it's a lot of journaling that goes on. But what I do for the morning pages to fit it in, as soon as I wake up in the morning, I can't, I'm like this. I'm like this. I don't even have both eyes open. It's like, and I just write. And sometimes I'm like, nothing makes sense. Like it's nonsensicalness that comes out. And I found that there have been a couple of mornings where like my husband woke up the same time I did. It completely threw it off. Like once
Mm.
it needs to be right when I wake up in the morning. No one is bothering me. The dog hasn't even been put out, and I can just it's like turning a faucet on. And then
Yeah.
and I'm able to let those pages go, and then it doesn't interfere with like my more morning time that I'm sitting with myself. Um, and
Mm.
so I think that I wonder if part of doing the process is like these little self discoveries that we're finding
Yes.
along the way, you know,
Yeah.
and giving ourselves permission to
Yeah.
be able to say, oh, I'm learning myself, I'm
Mhm.
discovering myself, and I'm giving myself permission to respond or to do it, kind of this way. And
Yeah.
I think it's also been really interesting because I didn't want to start and not finish this time. I really had an intention that I
Mhm.
want to do the whole 12 weeks. Like I
Me
want to
too.
see it through. But like you, I needed to know, what do I need so that in slow weeks and very busy weeks, which it's been really busy weeks, what do I need? And I think that I have discovered something that is anti Chantel. I am in my nature spontaneous. Like I'm in a field of wildflowers frolicking. I like to frolic in wildflowers in my mind. I like unscheduled, spontaneous activities. I do not like to know where I'm going when I get in the car. Like, that's
Mhm.
me naturally. I don't like to plan, like, scheduled time with my friends so we can hang out. I
Mm.
remember when we didn't used to have to do we could just easily get together. But now
Yeah.
it's like we coordinate calendars so we can have dinner or, go out for drinks. And so there's a part of me that was really like that resented that. Like, okay, outside of my work day and these spaces, I don't I resent having to schedule, kind of things because it doesn't feel good. But one of the things that I realized in doing this is I do need to make time and put things and have some intentionality of my time, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And then that can feel good. And what has
Yeah.
worked for me is, and that there's a balance between it. So what I do, what has been helpful for me is on Thursday nights, because my week starts on Friday. So on Thursday nights, I take isn't this a pretty journal? This is my cherry blossom journal. this
Love
this is
it.
my artist way journal. And I go through and I like set up my week. I don't know if you guys can see it. And
Yep.
I'll say, like, here are my dates for my journal pages, my artist date, and the activities. And I try and do at least 4 activities. I don't aim to do all of them, but 4 is like my minimum. And I'll set up all the templates for the pages. So if it's like write down your 20 dates, I'll just write 20. And then I choose a time and I do all of the activities, the written work at one time. I'll just go through and I'll do it. And what that has done for me is the work part is done. And what I'm able to experience in the week is the spontaneous ways that things are being broken up, like that are coming to me as I'm moving throughout my week. And that system has helped me to stay in step with doing the activities, to not talk myself out of doing them, because some of them I'm like, oh, I don't want to do that. That's like, like to like, okay, let me just follow the process. But also to give me that spontaneous space that I need to that I want to feel with it too. So it's like I'm doing kind of the coursework and it's like getting that stuff out of the way. But then it sticks with me and I'm thinking about it throughout the week as I'm moving. And that's the part, and it's been surprising in magical little ways how there's like things are shifting, like little things
Mhm.
are shifting. um yeah, so I'm curious, do you find like things shifting, or like what's your experience been?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because, gosh, I was taking all sorts of notes. I hope I'll be able to find them. They're like on all little scraps of fabric or fabric. My gosh, this
Yeah.
is my brain. Like it's all over the place. So it's interesting as you're talking because I'm like, that feels so structured, and that sounds like it would work for someone who is not me, which is really interesting. But I too have found like being intentional about creating the time and the space for me is really significant.
Yeah.
And then what that becomes,
Yeah.
that's where I've held flexibility for myself. Because I think of work too. I've always hated jobs that were exactly the same way all the time. I like variety.
Yeah.
And so, the idea of sitting down and having a structure feels very limiting, and it actually gets me so focused on trying to adhere to a structure that isn't natural that it blocks out creative thought.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, as I was kind of processing it this week, I'm like, somehow we have to figure out what that balance is for each one of us in terms of how much structure
Yeah.
do we need, how much flexibility. Um, and as a therapist, I work with a lot of people who are neurodivergent. And I thought of some of my people who really struggle with too wide open. And I thought, oh my goodness, like if one of those of my clients were to do morning pages, they would never do them because it would
Yeah.
be so wide open that they would stall before they even started. And so, thinking about, yeah, like what kinds of things could be helpful for someone who um, needs a little bit more structure. So I love what you've described because I think that does it. Because I did come up with a bunch of things like there's if if people search for ADHD brain dump exercise, there's a bunch of great things that come up that are like, I need to call these people, text these people, email these people, schedule this, follow up, speak with, here are the things I want to research, here are the things I want to make, here's what I want to do. And it's kind of a way of dumping things down, but in a more structured way. And so, yeah, as I was thinking about it, I thought like, I think the morning pages have been really worth me trying because I did have to try them to realize that they didn't work for me. And so
Mm-hmm.
I think I like what you said about like, it's not about avoiding things that we don't like, but it might be about trying them for a time, but not being so married to the process that we can't
Yeah.
allow ourselves to have grace to shift when it doesn't work for us. And
Yeah.
so I felt like I gave the morning pages an active effort for 2 weeks. And then I went, yeah, they're going to be what they're going to be. And like the reality is, in a 7-day period, probably 2 times I do them in the morning, probably three
Mm-hmm.
times I do them in the evening, and probably 2 days I don't do them at all. And so
Yeah.
again, me who tried this the first 2 times around would have felt like I'm failing, I'm not doing it right. And so what's the point in doing it, and would have quit. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's like, okay, no, I'm going to have grace and compassion and just allow it to be what it is. And so actually one of the other
Yeah.
things I thought of as you were talking, the other place where I've allowed myself flexibility is about the weeks. My weeks happen to
Yes.
be whenever I finish the chapter, rather than I have to have it
I
done
love
by a certain
that.
period of time.
I love that.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think that
Yeah.
was part of what held me up the last time as well, is I'd get behind, and as soon as I start feeling like I'm behind, I hit that overwhelmed place where I shut down and I toss
Mm-hmm.
the whole thing. And so again,
I love
some of that learning that I've done about myself over the years has really allowed me to kind of flex with this and to say, yeah, okay, what are the things I can take with me? And I think like I loved how you described it as this self-discovery. And I think if we can approach the
it.
artist
Yeah.
way with that spirit of self-discovery, saying like, what is the purpose of it? Well, the purpose of it is to really unlock our creativity and allow us to fully step into it. And if we see
Mm-hmm.
the journey of that rather than kind of this rigid adherence to a process that's been outlined for us, I think that's where it really will start to open things up. At least that's been my experience. So yeah. Does
Yeah.
that resonate for you?
I 100% agree with that. It does. And I'm a person that takes a lot of privilege. My my family and friends do believe that I have ADHD that's never been tested. I'm actually going to get tested. So I and
Mm.
so like some of the lists, actually my planner, the one that works for me, is actually a bullet journal that was started
Ah,
by he has ADHD and it's his system.
yeah.
And it's just lists. It's just like, here's a task, here's the thing. And I found that way before one of my friends who has it, and my daughter actually was diagnosed, my middle daughter, last year.
Ah,
And so her doctor was
okay.
like, okay, mom and dad, like, which one of you have it? And the whole family in the doctor's office, they all went like this, right to me. So I'm like, okay, and so I'm like, oh, but I think that the thing is, for me, it's about journeying through. Like, I want to go through, and I think how we go through is, it makes sense that this one specific way isn't going to be the way that we all go through, and that's
Yes.
okay. There's something that she talked about that's been one of the most helpful things for me thus far, and that is, paying attention is healing. Um,
Mm.
and I really thought that I paid a lot of attention to myself because I am a journaler. I'm highly reflective. Like, I like spending time with myself. So I would have scored myself a 10, right? On paying
I'm
attention to
paying
myself.
attention.
And one of that I noticed when I went on my artist dates, which I want to talk about artist dates,
Right. Yeah.
I realized, oh, I haven't been paying attention to myself.
Mm.
And I think that part of the, what I say discovery is when you're paying such attention to yourself that you are discovering new things about yourself and you're honoring what you're seeing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And honoring doesn't mean fast action or judgment or whatever. It's just like, oh, I see that. You know what I'm saying? I
Yeah.
can hold that up. I can be curious about that. Like, and you know how sometimes it's like I rush past people, or you're just moving so fast that sometimes it's like I'm like, oh, Chantel, you've been moving fast with
Mm.
yourself. You're moving
Mm.
fast. And so I think like I have really held on to what does it look like to pay attention to myself?
Mm.
And I'm a 0 to T woman, total thinker here. So if you ask me, how do you feel about that? It takes like, where's that list of emotions that I pull out, Andy? I will say things like, I'll say, Heidi, I think I want to cry. Like, I think
Mhm.
I want to cry.
Yeah.
Or so it takes me, it takes, it takes time for my feelings to catch up to my thoughts,
Mhm.
or, to come first. And I know that about myself, but I haven't paid attention to that. Like, I don't know if
Mm.
you
Yeah.
can understand the difference. I think for
Yeah.
me, the things that
Yeah.
are breaking up in me really have centered around things that I am learning how to pay attention to myself, and
Yeah.
being like, oh wow. And then and then going to what are we feeling about that, you know
Mm.
and so that, I think that's been the thing that's been really good. Even the things are like the activities, it's been interesting. And she says it in the introduction, like, notice the ones you gravitate towards and you want to do, notice the ones you don't want to do, you know and I
Mhm.
was flippant with that instruction. I didn't really, it's like, whatever, but like, and then I started like, no, let me actually pay attention, because I do have quick emotions with some of the activities. And I noticed that I think it's week threes, there's a lot of like childhood stuff. Like, list your
Mm.
childhood
Ooh, that's my next week, so I'm excited.
oh, so when I set up my pages, I had like, I'm setting up my pages. This is easy. And I'm like, oh, this is easy work, right? This is easy work. And then when I sat down to do it, I was like, I started and I was like, I don't want to do it. I flipped through it.
Mm.
and then but what was helpful was like, no, okay, what's going on? Something's going on. And I realized that it was emotion. I didn't want to sit with the childhood, and I had a good childhood, but it was also like my dad, and we
Mm.
talked about that. We have that connection, and I didn't realize, like, going to that place, there was this emotional almost barrier, or thing. I don't
Mm.
even know what to call it. And so, like, I think that these little ways, like these little kind of things that are kind of shifting, that I'm like, oh, pay attention to that. You can pay attention to that. And giving
Yeah.
space to kind of pay attention has been really helpful. But it is, I think, in the allowance of you going through it the way that you need to go through it. So if a week is more than a week, that's the best week for you. if
Yeah.
morning pages or at night pages, I just think it's pages. And pages
Yeah.
also can be voice recorders. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or, I think
Totally.
it's this idea of what it's doing. And I think one of the things that as I'm realizing right now in this moment that's so
Mm.
helpful about doing it with, like, being in community and conversation, is because I didn't have all of this the first time around, right? So
Me
when you can't do
neither.
something, or when I'm not following it, you're like you said, I failed. I'm not doing it right. And I think, like, doing it in community, you're like, oh, somebody did it like that. Oh, that's okay. Like, it gives you a different permission sometimes
Yeah.
that I think is needed, and
Yeah.
ideas. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. And I love, as I'm hearing you talk about like noticing and just the way that your brain and your body processes emotion. It was like, oh, okay, it makes sense that having that space and that intentional reflection time is really helpful, right? Like it's probably why you're a journaler, because I'm betting that through
Yeah.
your journaling, that's when the emotions start to come out and make
Yes.
sense. And
Yeah.
so
Yes.
yeah, I found something I found really interesting this week as I was kind of reflecting on some of this was actually around the artist date. I was like, what is it about the
Mm.
artist date that feels weird? And like, not weird in a bad way, just weird in a weird way.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, what is it?" And then I realized, oh, I actually, I feel like I'm doing it wrong in old language because I don't feel like I'm doing anything different than what I already do. And then I was like, okay, why is that? Is that because I'm not giving it a genuine
Mhm.
chance? And I realized, no, it's actually like for me, learning that came out of COVID. So pre-COVID,
Mm.
I was working kind of one day a week seeing clients, and I'd, cram as many as I could because that was the day I had the office. So it'd be like 8, 9, or 10 clients in one day. And then that was it. My week was done. Well, COVID hit, and within a week, I suddenly did not have an office that I was allowed to go to, and I was working
Right.
from home. And I thought, wait, why am I seeing all of these people on one day? I have like a whole week of days. And so I,
Right.
shuffled people because I was video only. And what ended up happening was through COVID, my practice became a full time practice. And it
Ah.
kind of happened without me even realizing it. And then, we hit, so March 2020 is when things shut down up here. And we were virtual only for, I believe it was 9 months that I was
Mhm.
virtual only, not in the office. And then we were still like, lockdowns and different stages of lockdown. And I think it was like the following May that I was trying to figure out why I was near burnout. And I realized that I had not taken a break because there was no need to. There was nowhere to go. There was nothing to do. And so my husband and I were both like, I found in my friend group, there were people who their world shut down and they just had time to like bake and garden and bike
Right.
ride and walk.
Right.
And then there were the people who were in these professions that actually became essential and kept going. So my husband's in banking. He There was no break. In fact, things got crazier for them. And same
Right.
for me. And so during that time, I got to this place where I realized, oh, I had unintentionally been working breaks into my schedule by virtue of, I'm going to a conference, so I'll take some days off and that kind of
Right.
thing. But with COVID, none of that was happening. And so it really made me aware of how much I needed that space for me, creative
Mhm.
space. And so it factored into how I laid my weeks out, where I have an intentional day that is a more spacious day, where I can sleep in the morning, I can go for a walk, I can go journal shopping, I can
It.
do things like that, and also like regular getaways. So today, as we're
Yeah.
talking here, I'm actually in Whistler, British Columbia, which is gorgeous. If any of you have not been here, put it on your gotta go list. It's
Yeah.
beautiful. My view, it looks like I'm in a treehouse. It's stunning. And part of this was an intentionally planned 2 full days just for me. And it was going to be mornings to sleep in, evenings to stay up late, do some journaling, do some writing, do my reading, have some chats with friends, just very much about having that space and that time to connect deeply with myself. And so the artist date has been really fascinating because I'm like, I kind of feel like I'm already doing that on a regular basis. So
Yeah.
I haven't
Yeah.
quite known how to shake it up and make it a little different. So, but I
Yeah.
would love for you to talk about yours because I know you had a really fun, well, you
Yeah.
probably had several, but yeah.
Yeah, I I struggled at first because I was like, I do I do spend time with myself, and do stuff with myself.
Mm.
And I enjoy that
Yeah.
time. And so I I was so what I did was there, I think in the first week it is you are supposed to like write out your imaginary jobs.
Yeah.
I think it's like imaginary. Yeah, your imaginary
Um,
lives.
yeah.
And so I came up with this idea because what I was doing when I was like, okay, well, I'll take myself out on a date. And what I was thinking of in my
Mm.
brain, I'm like, I already do those things. Like these are things that I already do.
Yeah.
And so then I was
Yeah.
like, I need to have some type of like, let me be thoughtful. If I'm really dating myself, what does that mean? I'm courting myself. If I was courting myself, right? Like or courting someone, well, what kind of energy would that mean? So I kind of like started in that, down that vein. And so I thought about my imaginary lives and I had like 20 of them. And I was like, okay, how can
Mm.
you
Wow.
align your dates to your imaginary lives, right? That you want to do. And so that became a whole different level of like, fun and stuff. So one is like a homicide detective. I'm a scaredy cat. If I wasn't so scared, I probably would, but like I'm a detective. And so one of my jobs is like I want to be a homicide detective, but I really want to like be a consultant and work internationally and have like a team and we go in and we solve cases and so for that one, I got like I had a date night with myself and I had did the unsolved case files. And it was so like good to
Oh.
get like engrossed in, like the case file and like figuring it out and stuff like that. And so I think like I had like my dates were, they had things. I realized I do spend a lot of time with myself, but a lot of time that I spend myself, usually some type of work comes in it. Like even if it's creative work,
Mm.
it's
Okay.
still some type of work that's inching its way in. And I wanted to have spaces where there was absolutely no type of work. And not even work on myself where I'm like reflecting, right? Or like journaling, like none of that. Because I wouldn't be doing that on a date, like with someone.
Mm.
And it can't be something that I already do. So my book clubs, my coffee dates, my bookstores, that does not qualify as a date. So I used my list and then I started like getting on the computer and finding different things that aligned. And in a couple of weeks, I'm taking a belly dancing class because being a belly dancer was one of my like imaginary lives. And so I was like, well, maybe I could find a belly dancing class. And so it really is like opened up a whole different thing. And now like my kids and my husband are like, okay, like what are what are you doing this week? And this past week, I was in New York with my husband, who he had a conference, and I tagged along, and I took a juggling class, and it was so much fun because one of my things had to be active, right? So I put some like different things, kind of parameters, and I think that felt very fun for me. And it moved me from like, kind of like low energy to like really high energy, and also it was very creative energy. Yeah, towards that. So that's kind of how I've approached it. And I one of the things that I learned was the type of time. Even when I'm doing something with myself, it's like I'm still have the house family calendar management system operating up here. You know, I'm still problem solving, available to problem solving, figuring out, reminding this one of this one. I'm also, because I work remotely, um, I also am still sometimes responding or checking, you know what I'm saying, on work. So even if it is like, oh, let me just read this copy, and and even if it's quick, is my point, it's still in that lane. And for these dates, absolutely no errands, no thinking, no reflect, like it's none of that. It is a real date and space for me. And that's been really, really helpful. And I look forward to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear like a real being present in the moment, like not allowing other things to
Yeah.
distract you, but to really be paying attention and focused on what you are doing in that moment. Yeah, this week, again, it's interesting. I love your creativity around the things that you're doing. I think those are so fantastic. And yeah, it might inspire me to think differently about it. I'll see where I go with it. But this week I'm doing a bucket list item, which I've mentioned for some of you who have been on other podcasts with me. I see Margaret's on here. It was actually on Margaret's podcast, I think, that I first said, I think I'm going to go zip lining. I have always
Woo!
wanted to zip line, but I'm terrified of heights. And so that's been one thing that held me back. And for those who have read any of my writings, I've written a little bit about kind of my own health journey. So for a long part of my life, I was simply too heavy to ride a zip line. And so ever since I've been in a weight zone where like I could zip line, I've been thinking about,
Yes.
I think I want to zip line. I think I want to zip line. I think I want to try it.
Yes.
And so my cousin is coming up here tonight and we are zip lining together
Oh,
tomorrow morning. So
yay! Oh, I love that. Oh, I love that. I will be on the look. I think that that's great. Yeah.
yeah.
I think that that's great. One of the things that I think perhaps, when we think about like core things, because it's I think she even says it in her introduction. It's nothing really brand new or magical, like in the sense of what it is, in these principles. But I think that we can, I I overlook or underestimate sometimes how busy my life is. And I think that creatives, and we are all creative beings. And then definitely, as someone who is, I am a writer, I am an actress, I am a director, and I haven't been leaning into those things. I do write and I do edit, but for my job, but in these ways that I'm talking about. I think there is something when you have to have time. Like there is time, I think, that you have to have with yourself, like a certain type of space where
Yeah.
things can come up. And I was listening to it was a compilation of like Michael Jackson videos, and he was talking about how like I have to create, like it has to. And he talked about the time. He said people see me perform and they see me on stage, but that's just like seconds of all the time
Mm.
that it takes that I'm thinking. There was this one gentleman who interviewed him, and he said that in his interview, he said that Michael Jackson had to meet him at a hotel, and he went to this hotel room, and he was like, it must have been the biggest hotel room in the hotel, and all the furniture was moved out of this hotel room, and there was a mirror on an opposite wall, and a chair, and a bottle of water, and Michael, and that was it. And so he said, like, his first thing was like he felt really sad, right? He was like, oh my
Oh,
gosh, he's in this room, and this is really, this is really sad. Like, he felt sad, like, gosh, Sky is in this room, there's no furniture. Like, this isn't. And then as he was talking to Michael, and eventually he asked about, like, because this is strange, like, why are you? And he was like, oh, what he said, he was saying that the space, even the physical things, like getting rid of even the physical things, the clutter, it just helps. And he had freedom to move and to dance and to be,
yeah.
and it helps him and just to do, like, to spend time with it. And I think, like, in a way, in the ways in which it's helping me is it's helping me to recognize, number one, I haven't been giving myself that type of time.
Mm,
Number two, I do have that type of time to give, because my biggest victim was, I don't have time. I don't have time. No, I do have time to give. And that there are things that are coming out as I'm giving, as I'm giving that type of time. And so if it's meditation or whatever whatever these things that I think bring us back to ourselves, I think are like good practices or ways to help bring us back to ourselves. And where our creativity flows, like, just to kind of,
yeah.
turn it on and see what comes out. Because there is stuff in there,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Yeah.
such an awesome summary. And I wrote down a few words, and I thought I know we had said we're going to try to keep it under an hour, so
Yeah.
I'll kind of wind things down. But just to let other people here know, Chantel, you and I have talked about doing this on a kind of semi-regular basis of just checking in and kind of seeing where things are at.
Yeah.
And so if you are interested in joining us for the next one, just make sure you're following both of us so that you'll see when we put that out there. I don't think we've picked a date yet, but we will. And I saw Margaret was like, where can I sign up? So I don't know if you've met Margaret. She's delightful.
I
So
have
we
not.
may want to. Okay, so Margaret, hit me up later and we'll chat in private messages. If you want to join us, maybe you could join us for the next conversation. So, but I figured a couple of words just that
Yes,
I
that would
pulled
be
out from,
lovely.
yeah, yeah. And a couple of words that I pulled out from what we were talking about were intentionality, space, flexibility,
Mm,
journey, sustainability, and
mhm.
congruence or comfort, that piece of it being a good fit. And
Mhm.
then I just thought I'm going to read back
Mm.
to when you said back to chapter one, it took me back to my pages here where I'd made my notes. And I thought, oh, I'm going to just end with some of the artist rules that resonated the most with me. And the last one I think is super, super
Yeah.
good for all of us. So here they are. 1, show up. 2, set small,
Yeah.
gentle goals and meet them. 3, choose companions who encourage me to do the work. Thank you, Chantel.
Yeah. Yes,
4,
thank you.
remember that the great creator loves creativity. And then this is the one that I thought for
Mhm.
probably for all of us is the most significant one is, well, I mean, maybe they all are most significant, but remember that it is my job just to do the work, not to judge it. And it kind of goes, it
Yeah.
feels like it ties
No,
all of
I
them
get
together. Like just show up, just do it, trust the process, figure out what the process looks like for you. And the goal of it is to really enjoy creativity, enjoy self discovery, enjoy
yeah.
um, just seeing where this takes us. So, yeah. Do you have any like
Yeah.
a closing thought that you want to leave people with?
Um, I would say that, if you're interested and if you're doing it, like, come along and join. I think
Yeah.
that the biggest thing, like, somehow, there is no right or wrong way. Even in, like, me asking when I had started, I was glad I did that.
Yeah.
Like, I think that the judgment and the permissions and these rules and we put a lot of stuff around us, and it really is. I see us as, I see us as a jolly old, like, walking down a trail, and like people come join us. You know what I'm saying? Like, come join. So I just feel like, come join, and don't wait for the perfect time in your life, because that probably won't be. Um, and um, and yeah, and you don't have to have like a really high figured out reason, for starting. You can just join because it just to start. So, but it is a gift, and it's been fun, and this is another energizing conversation for,
Yeah.
for ahead. And I can't wait to hear all about your zip lining, because
Yeah.
that is something like you that every time I do it, I'm like, that looks like the coolest thing. And I can imagine like the freedom of flight, but
Yeah.
I'm like so terrified. You know what I mean? Of the height,
Yep.
but it's like, so I'm so excited that you are doing something, and I'm excited you're doing something with a friend of a
Yeah.
bucket list. Like, that
Yeah.
is, I'm really excited about that.
Well, and this has
Yeah,
been my
that's a
week
great
of,
thing. That's a great
yeah.
artist date.
Yeah, this has been my week of like stepping out courageously and doing things that freak me out. So I've had a few things behind me already that I've done, and then this is next. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I actually ordered off Amazon this harness that I can put my phone in so that I can film as I'm going. And so I've been like, will I be brave
Oh,
enough to like hit live and go live? I don't know. So I haven't like put it out there.
yes, you will.
I
You will.
might.
You
I
will.
might. So if you see that little notification pop up tomorrow that says Heidi's going live, you're going to be like, I'm coming.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I
Oh,
feel like
that's
I'm
so
gonna have
fun.
to
I
do
love
some.
that.
I feel like I'm gonna
I
have
love
to do some
that.
self-therapy tonight. Like, okay, maybe some self-EMDR just to kind of help myself be regulated and grounded, because I really have no idea
Right.
on what
I
this
love
is going to be like, and will I have the courage to step off that platform? I don't know. We'll see. But yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
thank you so much. This has
I
been
can't wait to hear all
fantastic.
about it. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome.
Yes.
Thank you,
This
everyone, for
has
joining.
been great. It's
Yeah.
4 o'clock my time, so this has been a great end to my week. So, yeah,
Yay.
and
Thank
thank you
you.
all.
Yeah.
And yes, Margaret, we look forward to you joining. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, that'll be
All
awesome. So
right.
thank you everyone for being part of this, and we'll see you next time. Stay tuned for when we announce our next one. Bye all. Happy Friday.